So today we are going to have a look at the popular language learning app and website Duolingo. This video is not sponsored by Duolingo. I'm not getting any money from Duolingo, which means I can say whatever I like about this. So if I don't think something is good, I am going to be honest and I'm going to say this is not good. If I do think it's good, then I'll be honest and I will say I think it's good. But actually, I have used this before when studying French and Spanish, so I have an idea of how it works. And just from the beginning, I will say that it can be useful, it can be a bit of fun, but it definitely cannot be the only way you're studying. But perhaps some of you want to add this to your study as a bit of fun. So today I'm going to show you what it looks like. When you study on Duolingo, you're translating a lot of things. You're studying from your language into English. So if, for example, you are a French speaker, when you open up Duolingo, it will be in French and it will be asking you questions in French and you will need to be clicking on the English for that. But I live in Japan, so when I open up the website, it opens up in Japanese. So my screen will be in Japanese, but if you can't read Japanese, don't worry because I will be telling you what is on the screen. But I am going to pretend to be a Japanese speaker who is studying English. Okay, so let's have a quick run through the setup. So when you start, it says you can learn lots of languages for free in a fun way. So we'll click here on start and it asks what language you want to study. If you're a Japanese speaker, it looks like you have 4 options. Some other countries might have more options, but I think all of you are studying English. So we'll click on English. Then it's going to ask you some setup questions, which we'll just skip through. Then it will come to a screen where it asks you to create an account. If you just want to get started, you can just click on later. But Duolingo works a bit like a video game. You have different levels, and to save your progress, you'll need to create an account. But at the beginning, you can just skip that, see if you like it, try a few levels, and then later you can create an account to save your progress. And then you can choose to start from the beginning, or you can choose to do a test to see what level you are, and then Duolingo will set you up with the level that suits you. But today we're just going to start from the beginning. So if you start from the beginning, the intro stage is very, very simple. It will ask you things like how to translate coffee or how to translate sandwich. So it's a little dull, a little boring. We're going to skip to level 1 where it gets a little bit more challenging, but it's still quite simple. We'll have a look at some questions here, and then I'll show you some questions of the later stages to see what that looks like as well. So when you open it up right at the beginning, again, we still have some questions here like how do you translate salad? So it's asking here, how do you say salad in English?
Salad.
So we click on salad. And we're correct. We got that one correct. So some of these are quite simple. Like I said, if you're really a beginner just trying to increase your vocabulary, it can be useful. As I said earlier, I used this when I was studying Spanish, and I did find I could learn some kind of these everyday, very basic vocabulary that you need. Okay, so here we have a bit of a grammar question. There's no context, but this is fast rice, doesn't make any sense. There's no logic there. This is very rice, that's grammatically wrong. So we know that the answer has to be, this is your rice. So again, if you're a real beginner, this could be a good way to get used to some very basic sentence structure. Now it's asking which word equals this word, which is just ham in Japanese, which is almost the same. So that's an easy question. And we got that one. Again, another grammar question here. Is this the bus to the muffin? That's ridiculous. The cheese, that's ridiculous. So it must be, is this the bus to the library? Yes, I know English. Again, another translation question. And these ones are very easy because actually, if you're one of the people who can read Japanese, you'll know that the word is basically the same. So pet. And you get this audio every time, which can be good for your pronunciation. The train to my, again, it's just a logic question. It's city. Here again, another translation word, which again is also the same. A lot of these translation ones here have been very simple. but at least you get to hear the audio, so it could help with pronunciation a little bit. I am a teacher. Again, it's just a sort of logic thing. I am a teacher is this. That doesn't make any sense. So, and you. In this level, it seems to be giving me a lot of very similar questions. So let's have a look at level 2 and see what that looks like. So far, pretty simple, pretty useful, perhaps if you're a very, very basic learner, but I imagine a lot of you are beyond that. So let's have a look what it looks like when you're getting a bit more difficult. Okay, so here again, still very simple. We're on level 2 now, but it's still very simple. It's asking me how to say long in English.
Long.
And we got it right. Again, another one of these grammar questions. Where is the picnic? Is it in the shower? That would be a ridiculous place to have a picnic. Of course, the answer is park, but we keep getting them correct. So let's see what happens if I get it wrong. Is it in the shower? Oh no, I got it wrong. And then here it has a translation. So it's saying you should have chosen where is the picnic? It's in the park. So it has a Japanese translation for what the answer should have been. But you would have to be pretty stupid to think that picnics happen in the shower. Okay, this one is asking me to translate dinner. So we're still very easy. So let's skip ahead to a later level to see if it gets any more difficult. We're going to go on level 4. Also, this is the beginning lesson of each level. So perhaps that's why the question structure is quite similar every time. Okay, so here we've got lend.
Lend.
Okay.
She wrote 5 reports last week.
Now we have a new question structure that comes up in the later questions, and it asks you to translate something. So you actually have to type yourself. But sometimes you might get a sentence which could have a few possible translations. And I've tried this before, and I know that Duolingo has some of those options. So there is some flexibility. But sometimes you might translate something and it might be correct, but Duolingo will say, no, you're wrong, when actually you were correct. You just didn't choose the same translation as they did. So let's try this one. Okay, let's see if I'm correct. Okay, so I was correct. You see here, there is some flexibility because actually I put the order a little bit different, but it tells me that my order is still okay. So that one has some flexibility. Okay, so here's a good example of what I was talking about earlier. Here it's saying that the correct answer is, did she order a sandwich? And mine is almost exactly the same. The only difference is I didn't type sandoichi, which is the Japanese word for sandwich. I just typed the word sando, which is almost more common because the word sandoichi is a bit long in Japanese. So a lot of times people just say sando. So without thinking, I just typed sando and it tells me you're wrong when I'm not wrong. I just used a different word than they used, you see. So this is the problem I was talking about earlier. Even with something that only needs a tiny bit of flexibility like this, it's still telling me that I made a mistake. Okay, let's go to level 6 and see what that is like. That seems to be the hardest level we can get to at the moment. Perhaps there are some more difficult levels, but I think we need to complete some of these first before it lets us do that. So we're still getting some words that are very similar in English and Japanese, so it's very easy to translate. Now it's actually asking me to type in some English. So it's the first time we've seen this type of question. And it's saying back garden. So hopefully I can get this one. Okay, so this is a problem. Back garden is correct, but this is the British word. This is obviously set up to American English. So it's saying that I should have typed backyard, because that's what Americans would call this, but in the UK we say back garden. So this is what I was talking about earlier, with a bit of lack of flexibility, because back garden is correct, it's just British English. Okay, another translation, still very easy translation. Again, very easy. It's almost the same. And there's a few words here. We can say television or we can say TV. In the UK, we also say telly, but earlier it didn't like my British English, so I won't try British English this time. Okay, TV is correct. Okay, here, electronic.
Electronic.
When did you complete your education?
Okay, now we have a new type of question. This is a hearing question. This is not a bad style of question. I think this one is okay. You can click to listen again.
When did you complete your education?
And if you find that a bit difficult, you can click for a slower option.
When did you complete your education?
So let's see if I'm correct. Yes, I got it. And then here it has a translation for you, so you know what that means if you didn't know what that meant. Okay, we're doing well. Here again, we just have another translation. I think these one-word translation questions seem to be much easier than some of the other questions. Like the balance doesn't seem to be very good there. Okay, so we have another one of these listening questions.
I'm going to review this chapter first.
Okay, he said, I'm going to review this chapter first. Okay, so we got that one right. It's not bad for listening practice. And then here it has a translation, so we know what that means. Okay, more easy translation questions.
I need to complete my essay quickly.
Okay, another listening one. Okay, and we got it right. And once again, a translation at the bottom. So we don't seem to have any new question types coming up there. Okay, so that was just a quick look at Duolingo. As I said, I have used it myself, and when I was studying French, I had a little look at it, but I already knew some French, so I found that it was all a bit easy for me. As I pointed out earlier, those like translation questions, they're really quite simple and they can get a little bit boring. And there is also a lot of review in Duolingo. Today we were just clicking on some levels, so we only saw the first lesson for each level, but I remember that when I was using this in the past, there is a lot of repetition. Of course, they want to help you to remember these new words, but there's a bit too much repetition. And I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. They felt like they kept going through the same words again and again and again. And it could be a word that you know already, so you really don't want to review that. And there's no option to just say, I know this word, please stop bringing this word back up. And there can also be a case like I showed you earlier, where the word might be very similar in English to your language. So you only need to hear that word once or maybe twice before you can remember it, because it's the same as in your language with just a different pronunciation, so you don't need to keep repeating that word again and again and again. So I think that's a problem with an app like Duolingo. So if you want to give it a try, do so. It could be something you could flick through on the bus or the train, especially if you are a beginner. But if you are watching my videos, I think you're probably all intermediate or higher, so you might not find it very useful. But I just thought today I would let you know what it looks like. So if you found this video helpful, useful, or interesting, then please like and let me know what you think in the comments. If you've tried Duolingo before, then comment below with what you thought about it. Or if you know any more useful language learning apps, then let me know. And of course, if it's your first time, don't forget to subscribe. So thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.